Hi, in this series I'm just going to be going through all of the games in section 1 of Prep Test 78. So that's section 1 on Law Hub, but in the test booklet it would actually be section 2. Alright, so I'll try to keep this under an hour. Obviously you only have 35 minutes to do the full section, but with some explanation and little kind of like intro stuff like this, it will probably take me longer than 35 minutes to actually get through all of the questions. Okay, so starting with game 1, we have 7 workers, so these will be our players. And they're being considered for a project, and 3 of them will be selected. So if 3 are selected, that means 4 will be left out. And here we have an in and out component or a selection component. Okay. One of the members will be the leader. So within the in group, we actually have another special position. All right, and then we get to the rules. Rule 1 states that Q or R can be a project member only if leading the project. Since there's only one leader, we have to interpret this rule as if Q is in, then Q is the leader. So if Q is not the leader, Q has to be out. Okay, that's our contrapositive. And the same for R. If R is in, R has to be the leader. If R is not the leader, then R is out. Okay, and we can actually say that if R is in, R is the leader, therefore Q is not the leader, therefore Q is out. So if R is in, Q is out, and likewise if Q is in, R is out. Okay, so one or the other of them has to be out. So we can even reserve a spot in the out positions for either Q or R. Rule 2, if S is a project member, then T must be. If T is not, S is not, is our contrapositive. Rule 3, if W is in, then R is not and V is not. So if R is in or V is in, then W must be out. Okay, great. So question 1, we're just going to go rule by rule and eliminate the rule breakers. So if Q or R is in, they're going to have to be the leader. So B is out based on rule 1. If S is in, T must be in. Okay, so D is out based on rule 2. Note that A is still allowed even though we have rule 2, right? So just because T is in doesn't mean that S has to be in as well. Okay, if W is in, then both R and V should be out. So E we can eliminate based on rule 3, and we can also eliminate A based on rule 3. So C is the correct answer, and I'll just write that one out. So we have V as the leader, and Q, sorry, looking at the wrong one, S and T are the other players. That means that Q, R, W, and X are out. Okay, great. So that's one acceptable solution for a bank of acceptable solutions. Question 2. If Taylor is the project leader, and Wells is a project member, then the third project member must be either, and then we have 2 options in each of the answer choices. So if T is the leader, that means that Q and R are both out. If W is in, that means R and V are both out. So the remaining players are X and S. Okay, and S, of course, can be in because T's already in. So the consequence of that trigger is already met. So this would have to be either S or X. And that's another set of acceptable solutions. D is the correct answer. Question 3. V could be the project leader if which one of the following is true. All right, so we do have an example where V is the project leader. Chances are they're not going to be that kind to us though, and allow us to actually come to come to this this same result. So if Q and S are out, can V still be the leader? Okay, so Q and S out. If V is the leader, R is going to have to be out as well, right? So we have to make sure there's room for R being out. T could still be in though, so that's not a problem. And X is wild, right? We don't actually have any rules dealing with X, so I don't see why X couldn't be in. If V is in, W has to be out, so that would work out nicely. So V could be the project leader if neither Q nor S is selected. That's possible. Okay, great. This actually looks like it's the only option that we have other than the one that was created originally, right? So if V is the leader, then Q and R have to be out. If V is in, W has to be out. And then we're just left with S, T, and X, right? If S is in, T has to be in, and we have that option up here. But if S isn't in, then X would replace it. So these are the only two options we have where V is the leader. So B through E, none of those are possible because we need to have T involved, right? And either S or X. So B, C, and E we can eliminate because we know that T has to be involved. And D we can eliminate because it has to be T and then either S or X. Right? Okay, so we can't have both of them out. Great. So all of that to say that A is the correct answer. 4. If Taylor is not a project member, so here we're triggering the contrapositive of rule 2. So if T is out, that means that S is also out. We know we have to leave room for either Q or R. And yeah, and then we can't have both V and W in, right? One of those two is going to have to be out as well. So we're definitely going to need to have X in. X is going to have to be one of our players. Great. So E is the correct answer for 4. Question 5. The selection for the project is completely determined if which one of the following is true. All right, so what would completely determine the selection? Well, let's see what would trigger the most here. So we see each of the answer choices has 2 players that are not selected. So T not being selected is pretty handy, right? So that would probably be a good thing to know. But also X appears in almost all of our solutions. So if X isn't selected, that's probably also worth knowing. R not being selected and W not being selected isn't going to be super valuable. We actually have like a few options where we don't have R and we don't have W, and neither R nor V. That one might be a little bit more helpful, but yeah, we can't say for sure. So out of these, I would probably start with B, because T being out pushes S out as well. So if Q is out and T is out, S is also out. Okay, and then we would look to this rule here, right? So if W is in, then R and V would both be out. So we actually can't have W in because we don't have room to put both R and V out, right? So W has to be out as well, which means everybody else is in. And if R is in, R has to be the leader, so we even know who the leader of the project is. So we have R, V, and X. So B is the correct answer. Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm at 10 minutes, but ideally this would be a game that you'd be able to complete in 7 minutes or less. So just keep that in mind in terms of pacing for the section. Okay, start game 2.